In today's video, we are going to talk about Jetpack Compose, and I want to tell you about 3 powerful tips to enhance your productivity. So stick around till the end because I've got a bonus tip that improves the state management between your view model and UI class. The first tip I want to talk about, it's quite obvious, but sometimes we just forget about it. And I want to show you by example how to make use of reusability effectively in your code. Here in this example, we have 2 screens, login and sign up. As you can see in the UI implementation of these 2 screens, they have 2 buttons. They're just slightly different, like text or the color, that's all. We can just extract these 2 into one generic compose component. Let's see how we can do that. Let's create a composable function and call it primer button. This is gonna be a little bit more generic. And we want to pass some argument to this function. In this case, our composable function accepts a few arguments to support different variation of this button. That's it. By reviewing your code base, you may find such cases. Then you can create some generic composable function which can be reusable. The second tip is about previews. I'm pretty sure you know already what is preview annotation. But if I want to tell you quickly, it's an annotation you can use for your composable functions to get a preview of your composable components. Okay, let's go deeper and look at the documentation to see how we can use it like a pro. As you see, the annotation accepts many arguments and you can make use of them and create different type of previews for your composable functions with different themes, font sizes, languages if your application is localized, and so on. With all of this, you can have a wide range of previews for your UI implementation to make sure your application looks perfect across any type of devices. Just a heads up, there is a performance issue in Android Studio. If the amount of previews goes higher, the rendering getting slower. But it has been fixed in Android Studio Iguana. Make sure your Android Studio is updated. Now let's get into the code to get most out of this preview annotation. First, we want to preview the user interface in different Android devices by using device argument. You can set any type of Android devices. In this example, I added Nexus 6, Pixel, Pixel 4 XL. As you can see in the preview section on the right side, we have 3 screens from 3 different devices. UI mode is the next argument we want to use it in our previews. It's quite important for any application to make sure UI is implemented correctly. Sometimes we need to check, for example, text color or icon in both light and dark. And by setting UI mode for our previews, we can get another render to check our UI implementation. Font scale is another argument. I would prefer to have it in my previews, since user is able to scale it up or down from setting. And I want to make sure the UI implementation looks okay with different font scales. The next 2 arguments is a bit more optional, but I would prefer to mention that. One is locale if your application is multilingual. You can see the UI implementation in preview with different languages. Sometimes it's quite important. For example, a translation in different languages could have different length, and you want to make sure the text fits well on this screen with different languages. The last one is about large preview. And if your application is supposed to support large screens, you can have another preview with device argument to set it as desktop. The interesting part is you can combine all these preview annotations into one and use this on your preview function instead. The third tip I want to tell you is helpful to reduce the amount of boilerplate code, and it's CompositionLocal provided. Based on the official documentation, CompositionLocal is a tool for passing data down through the composition implicitly to support not needing to pass the colors as an explicit parameter dependency to most composable. Compose offers CompositionLocal, which allow you to create tree scope named object that can be used as an implicit way to have data flow through the UI trees. In another word, you create the object you need within your composables and give it the CompositionLocal, and you can have access to that anytime within your UI tree. And here's the syntax as an example to show you how to set CompositionLocal objects. We got to the end of the video. Hope you find the tips useful. Oh, I forgot about the bonus tip I wanted to tell you at the end. It's about UI state management in a clean way. With the help of state class, we can define different UI states. For example, our screen needs to show 3 states. loading where we are making API calls, error in case we want to show an error message, and loaded to show the content. Let me show you the code to make it more clear. First, look at the UI state class to see how it is defined. It's a generic sail class with the type of T for loaded case, and a loading and error as I said before. Now let's look at the viewModel class to see how it's been used. Before that, I have a fake repo class here to simulate few API calls, and every API call is assigned to a Kotlin flow. Then I combine all these flows together to build my UI state. I also use catch function in case of any error to emit the UI state.error, and used onStart to emit the loading state. If everything went well, we get to the build state function, where we can create our UI state.loaded. Now let's jump into the UI class to see how we've used this UI state. As usual, we get the UI state from viewModel class, and then here put the UI state into the when condition. If the type is loading, I show a progress indicator, and if it's loaded, I show loaded content composable. In case of any error, error screen will be appeared. That's it about this UI state approach. I also like to mention another point about this approach. Imagine in your UI you have a standalone section, which it has its own states. You can just reuse this approach into that section as well, even though that section is part of this main UI state. We got to the end of this video and hope you liked that. If so, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any other tip, please share it in the comment section. I'm Ali from Otaku channel. See you till next video.